Disney Channel original movies, some of the most memorable and fondly looked back on parts of 90s and 2000 kids' childhoods, including mine, and if I have the right demographic, yours too. Well, today we'll be looking at one of my favorite DCOMs, 2008's Minutemen. But before we get started, if you're not already subscribed, hit subscribe, because I want you to. And it hurts my feelings if you don't. Also, like 50% of the people watching my videos aren't subscribed, which makes no sense to me. Like, come on. Just makes no sense. Just subscribe. It's that easy. You won't have to look for my videos anymore. They're just right there. Also like the video because helps me out. Also, new haircut just dropped. Okay, now onto the video. So I might have lied when I said DCOMs are super memorable, because all I remembered about this movie was that it starred Jason Dolley and the guy from Sky High and Succession and a smaller version of Jason Dolley, and that they're all kind of lame, and then they make a time machine and then there's a super emotional climax at the end, but I don't really remember any of the details of it. I also remember Arwen from Suite Life of Zack and Cody being the principal and main antagonist of this movie, and that there was a very important moment where Jason Dolley causes a scene at a big school event and he's in like a chicken suit, but it turns out that is actually not this movie at all, and that it's Hatching Pete, an entirely different DCOM that just so happens to star Jason Dolley. And it also stars friend of the channel and biracial king, Mitchell Musso. Because Mitchell Musso, our biracial king, so yeah, I just needed a little refresher before I got started. And obviously, spoilers. I don't really think I have to say that because it's a movie from 2008 that aired on Disney Channel. But anyways, let's just jump right into it. So the movie begins with Virgil, Stephanie, and Derek, who are a close-knit trio of friends all going into high school together. But with Derek becoming the quarterback of the football team and Stephanie becoming a cheerleader, Virgil kind of just becomes your everyday average high schooler. And he kind of just jokes around with the football guys and seems to be decently liked in that group, but for some reason, Derek is jealous of this, which is just very odd because, like, bro, you're the QB as a freshman. Like, it doesn't really get easier for you to make friends and be popular and well-liked than that. You don't even need to be likable. Like, people just gravitate toward you. Like, you literally just get a free ride into having the most friends and the most people who just like you for no reason. Anyways, one day at football practice when Derek is practicing his throw and just absolutely sucking, Stephanie is practicing cheerleading at the same time, and Virgil is just dropping banger jokes to the rest of the football team.
But first, a little boomba.
And then all of a sudden, some Back to the Future type go-kart thing with like a whole ass rocket attached just comes flying onto the football field with some kid at the helm. Surprisingly, this go-kart just doesn't hit anyone because it would have straight up just murdered someone if it did. And everybody was like weirdly unalarmed by the presence of a high-speed vehicle in such like a highly populated area. It's then revealed that this kid is Derek's nerdy neighbor Charlie, who skipped like 4 grades to be in the same grade as everyone else. And then he just domes the kid with a football, causing him to fall off the go-kart. Then the football team surrounded him and started pushing him around. And then Virgil, being the anti-bullying Chad that he is, tried to step in and stop them. But then he got himself thrown in, introducing Disney's anti-intervention and pro-bullying stance. So because Virgil tried to intervene and save this kid, the football team dressed them both up as cheerleaders with makeup and hung them by their clothes on the school's mascot statue because transphobia. So after being completely humiliated together, Virgil and Charlie are forever bound by their unfathomable lameness. Then they fast forward 3 years and this kid is just still the biggest fucking dweeb, and Virgil basically just doesn't have braces anymore. Yeah, great time jump. This time jump kind of implies that Virgil and the 2 friends that he started high school with have kind of splintered off, with now Stephanie and Derek dating and Virgil being closer to Charlie because of their shared experience being the lamest kids in school. Despite this though, it seems that Virgil really wants to bone Stephanie, and Stephanie low-key wants that too, but Derek seems hesitant to even interact with Virgil. We then see that since what Virgil refers to as the incident,
The incident I will one day be explaining to a very expensive therapist.
he's been relegated to the stereotypical ultra nerd group, while his former friends are at the top of the social food chain. And you can tell that like Virgil is like 1 week away from completing his Joker arc and just murdering people.
Seriously, how did it come to this?
We also learn that the school has used a picture of Virgil and Charlie hanging from the Ram statue as the cover of the yearbook for 3 years, further solidifying Disney's stance on bullying. So after all that, typical high school movie exposition, the story just jumps right into Charlie somehow discovering how to make time travel happen, which isn't really explained at all, which is probably from scenes having to be cut so that kids in 2008 wouldn't have to sit still for like over an hour and a half. But anyways, Charlie says that he has all of the planning for the time machine all set, but he only needs a hardware guy. This hardware guy materializes in the form of Zeke, who is supposedly an intimidating biker guy who is very tall and mysterious. And equally as shut out from the popular crowd as Virgil and Charlie are. So Virgil and Charlie befriend Zeke because he's good with motorcycles and stuff, and Zeke helps them build their time machine. And somehow they successfully build one. I don't fucking know, man. At first, the trio didn't really know what to use their breakthrough technology for. That is until they see one of their nerdy loser acquaintances getting fucked with while the vice principal basically tells them, "It is what it is. That's high school, baby. I don't." In like the most harshly capitalistic and dog-eat-dog social hierarchy way possible.
Everything in this world has an order. There are those who stuff others into vending machines and those who get stuffed into vending machines. It's just the way the system works. It's actually in the vice principal's handbook.
And then for some reason, Charlie and Virgil have this weird exchange.
Virgil, I just had a brilliant idea.
You need to use the time machine.
Exactly.
Like, why was this interaction so strange? Like, they make you think Virgil is gonna say some dumb thing like, "We use the time machine and go back in time to trade Google stock," or something else to get rich quick, because initially that was kind of all he wanted to use the time machine for. But instead he just says, "We use the time machine," which, like, yeah, that was implied already. Like, this is what I think that the writers were going for with this scene. Are you thinking what I'm thinking, Jason Dolly? Yeah, we use the time machine to trade Apple stocks and get rich quick. No. I'm thinking we use it to help our friends from getting bullied. I was thinking that too. Yeah. That's my idea. And scene. So it's at this moment that Virgil decides that the three should use the time machine to help fellow losers right before they get super embarrassed or right before something bad happens to them. And the others are a little bit skeptical about this at first, but they warm up to the idea and they begin to help other kids out. Like when that kid got his clothes stolen after gym class, so the Minutemen, that's them, gave him such a hard fit that it would literally change the trajectory of his high school career. Or when they prevented a dude from tripping and falling and spilling food all over himself in front of all the popular kids, or freeing a kid from a vending machine right before hordes of students came piling out of their classrooms to see him. And while all this is happening, the Minutemen gain a ton of notoriety within the school and also with like every government agency, because Charlie somehow stole the plans for how to make a time machine from NASA. Yeah, they don't really explain that. So they start to lay off on the heroism until Stephanie like breaks her fucking leg doing cheerleading. So Virgil convinces them to go back in time one last time so he can prevent her from falling and hurting herself, because he really wants to pipe. But in doing so, Virgil actually kind of accidentally reveals himself to be one of the notorious Minutemen. So when Derek fucks up a play in the football championship that leads to the school's team losing, he tries to be all buddy-buddy with Virgil to try and get him to go back in time and prevent Derek from fucking everything up. And he really pushes Virgil to do it by saying that he actually tried to stop the rest of the football team from humiliating him and Charlie on that fateful day in freshman year. So he does it because the idea of being popular and reunited with his friends Derek and Stephanie is just so irresistible to him. So then he shows the Derek that won the game a tape of the loss, because it's 2008, to prove that Virgil is like a god. And this ends up making Virgil very popular and all, but he starts to leave behind Charlie and Zeke, his actual friends, for this new life where he's friends with his old pals again, and he kind of goes on like an asshole arc.
You're being mean, Virgil.
Charlie, why don't you just go home to your computer and your cat?
But then Stephanie tells Virgil that she caught Derek kissing the meanest, most popular girl in school, who she already suspected him to be fooling around with. And Virgil is like, and then Derek comes to Virgil, And then Derek comes to Virgil asking him to go back in time, and not to prevent him from cheating on Stephanie, but to prevent Stephanie from catching him. And Virgil is like, I don't know about that, dog. And Derek is like, but we're boys. And then Virgil is like, I'll think about it. And then he gets abducted by the FBI. Hey, Disney Channel original movies. Pretty fucking awesome, man. So yeah, the FBI is just on them now because of the stolen NASA shit, but this is kind of just to raise the stakes a little bit, which won't matter because then Charlie finds out that all this time travel, well, it's tearing a black hole in the universe. So he just narcs on himself and the other two, and in exchange for trying to stop the world from ending, the trio won't get thrown into Guantanamo Bay. Junior, because they're minors. And would you look at that? The black hole is conveniently opening on the same day that a major school dance is taking place. And at the same time that Derek is like, yo, Virgil, you gonna help enable my horrible behavior? Because we're boys? But he's interrupted because Charlie gathers up him and Zeke and is like, listen guys, gotta jump into a black hole. And then they just do it. Like, what? What? So when they jump into the black hole, they are sent back in time to an indeterminate day, and they stabilize the black hole, whatever the fuck that means. And then they figure out that it's actually the first day of freshman year, aka the day that Virgil and Charlie were put up on that statue for everyone to see. So after figuring this out, Virgil is like, oh shit, I have the chance to prevent myself from being completely embarrassed and having my entire life ruined. But this causes Charlie to go on an extremely emotional and heartfelt tangent about how he hates how much Virgil hates this day, because this day is actually Charlie's favorite day because it gave him Virgil as a friend. And this was honestly like a really great moment in the movie. The emotions and the weight are conveyed really well. And when Charlie says that like this is his favorite day, like you really feel that and it really hits you. Anyways, after telling Virgil this, Charlie and Zeke are like, forget it, bro. You do you. We're going back to present day. So they leave to go back to the black hole or whatever. And once they leave, Virgil looks upon the field where the initial moment of his and Charlie's friendship is taking place. And he's keeping his eyes on Derek because he said that he tried to stop the bullying from happening. But then Virgil sees that Derek was actually the one who gave the team the idea to like put them in cheerleading outfits and put makeup all over them. So then it's like, whoa, are you kidding me? What? And I do actually remember watching this part as a kid and being like, holy fucking shit. Are you fucking with me right now? I can't believe this. I can't fucking believe this. Are you fucking with me? Like my child heart was so broken over this scene, and it still kind of lives up to that. Like it's still a pretty big twist. So after seeing what really happened, Virgil hops on the Back to the Future thing and catches up to Charlie and Zeke so that they can make it back to the black hole before it closes up and that they're trapped there. And so they're weaving in and out of traffic on their way there. And all I could think about during this scene was like, what if they just like get into a head-on collision and just die? Like that was the end. Like they're like, we're gonna save the world. ooh, we stopped a black hole. And then like they fucking run into like a grand caravan and they just like get fucking folded around it. Oh, sorry about that. Anyways, they make it back safely because, yeah, of course, but they didn't go back to the same day that they left at, but actually the day that they traveled back in time for the first time. So they get a little do-over. Isn't that nice? Also, the football coach has this strange moment when they return, where he's just like, huh, smoking tire, and nothing else. That's the whole line. Just says, huh, smoking tire.
Got to get one of those cool jogging suits. Smoking tire.
Huh. Smoking tire. He just says that. It just goes, smoking tire. So yeah, they basically just get to start over with like a whole new lease on life and with all the future knowledge that they have. So Virgil uses this to get with Stephanie finally and to roast Derek for being a dick. And in all that, there's this moment.
I was just rehearsing a little school play about time travel. And it kind of got me thinking, if I really could go back in time, what would I change?
Snowsuit?
I would tell Stephanie how I really feel about her. I think she's great.
Really? And if I could go back in time, I think I'd tell Virgil the same thing.
So if you could go back in time, you wouldn't like, I don't know,
Stop the Holocaust.
or like,
Prevent COVID. Or 9/11.
or anything? Because that's what I would do, you know, because I'm just selfless like that. Yeah, it's kind of self-centered of you guys to do that, but, you know, whatever. So yeah, that's pretty much it, and then the movie just ends. And honestly, I'm kind of impressed. Like, I was not expecting this movie to really hold up in any way, but I actually found it extremely charming and endearing. Like, sure, it's a cheesy high school movie that's meant for kids, but of course it is. It's a DCOM. Like, I would say it's right on the line of being really cheesy and a pretty funny satire of all of the prototypical high school tropes and archetypes, with characters like the nerds and the outcasts and the antagonistic authority figure and the vice principal, and like the over-the-top dramatics and desperation of the football coach. Like, it's honestly pretty good at slightly adjusting those expected aspects of high school movies to make them a little funnier, especially the football coach. Like the scene where it's the football championship and he gives this speech.
Forget that there's 6 seconds left on the clock. Forget that you could put Somerton High on the map. Forget that my little boy is up there in that stance looking down at his father trying to fulfill a lifelong dream of winning a state championship. Forget all that.
Like, honestly, it feels like a sketch that's making fun of those like over-the-top high school football shows. Now, I do say this all under the assumption that these satirical aspects were added intentionally and that the writers chose to do this pseudo-satire, which completely leaves open the chance that this is just because they really wanted it to be like every other high school movie, so much so that it feels like a joke when it's really not. I would like to believe that they did this on purpose though. So yeah, I would say Minutemen holds up. Part of me just kind of wishes it wasn't as compressed to fit the allotted time slot Disney Channel gives these things, because then it would feel way more like a regular movie, and we would get more Zeke, because he had like 10 lines in the whole movie, and Zeke deserves better than that. All I'm gonna say is, Minutemen walked so that Tenet could run. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, that's it. Make sure you like this video and comment what you would do if you could go back in time. Also, subscribe, please. Please. Subscribe. Please. Okay, bye.